Episode 154 of Above Ground Podcast. My Exploding Head with Dan Neet and Lisa McLane.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 154 of Above Ground Podcast with our guests Dan Neet and Lisa McLane, which we're going to get to shortly, as I just want to give out some huge shout outs. Over the weekend, we were involved in the National Alliance on Mental Illness Capital Region Chapter Mental Health Awareness Day for Mental Health Awareness Month. Huge shout out to them. They did an amazing job at Washington Park, and there were so many people there from so many different organizations, and it was incredible, and I'm so happy I got to network and meet a lot of people, put a lot of faces to names, and we had a wonderful day. It was beautiful out. You couldn't ask for better weather, so thank you to everybody who came out. I want to thank the National Alliance of Mental Illness Capital Region Chapter and New York State Chapter. A big get well soon to Matt Shapiro. Matt was luckily okay, but was in a really bad car accident recently, and I wanted to give him a big, huge shout out and a big hug. He was on an episode in 2020. Yeah, I think 2020. And I should have looked up the nut, but, that's how I roll. And he was involved in a really bad car accident. He got really, really hurt, so we got mad love for him, man. We wish you well, Matt. Get well. I wish you all the best. But we were at their day, and we met with a lot of different organizations. I was there for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Capital Region Chapter, and I was also going around meeting people and talking to people. And luckily, everybody was willing to give me resources for the next day, which was Upstate Punk Rock Flea Market number 2. It was awesome. Big, huge shout out to Mike Langon, and it's awesome, and the event is great. We met a lot of cool people. Dan Neet and Lisa were there, Lisa McLane, who are going to be coming up in a few minutes here. It was awesome. I want to give mad props to Empire Live. I want to give mad props to Artie Fredette and Radio X. They were there providing the tunes, and Artie's a great guy, man. I've known Artie for many, many years, and he runs a great organization at Radio X. Radio X has their experience monthly and stuff. Go check it out. We're a big community here, and that's what we need. But thank you so much to everybody who came out, got resources. I got mad resources from Saturday's NAMI thing from all the organizations. From the Office of Mental Health. I got stuff from Equinox. I got stuff from RSS. I got stuff from Unity House. I got stuff from, there's a couple new organizations that I'm not very familiar with. There was Girls Incorporated. There was, there's so much other stuff. It was awesome. Great day. And again, great weekend. All right, let's do it. The incredible monolith that is the lead singer of the Clay People, Dan Neet, and Lisa McLane, his angel. 154 Above Ground Podcast, My Exploding Head.
Cool.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
Yeah, that's right, TPP. What's up, buddy? How we doing, Timmy? Because we got a good one tonight, man. We're really blessed tonight with some cool people. So I'm gonna let Timmy introduce.
Ooh, I get the introduction, huh? I don't want to, waste any time with a big introduction. I'm just going to say that we are here with 2 artists, and I'll leave it at that. He's in a cold sweat and has his nightmare just begun. It's Dan Neet and his partner in crime, Lisa.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, good. I can see everybody now.
Awesome.
I got all kinds of visuals.
There you go. Thank you so much, Dan and Lisa, for joining us tonight, man. This is an honor and a pleasure, and I'm so grateful that you both said yeah, and we can't wait to talk, man.
Yeah, we're excited. We really wanted to do this. I think it's a really good thing.
Awesome.
Timmy,
what do you want to kick off with, man?
I guess, Dan, if you just want to kind of fill us in as to some of your story and where you were and where you're at now.
Where's my story? My story. Well, that's.
You got like 3 hours.
You want the abridged version, or do you want
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're going. How do I start this? I thought these were going to be yes/no questions. I thought this now it's essay form.
Oh yeah. No, we want your deepest. This is called inner INNER view. That's why.
We live in a world of transparency now, so it's not like we address this constantly. It's every day. My mental health has relativity to my current life and what I went through, and I always say that I wouldn't be the person I am now if I didn't go through what I went through. And my mental health issues resulted in me self-medicating, and I self-medicated for years, not knowing that I needed to get help. So it takes tragic moments in my life before I finally do get some help to, and I don't want to say normal because I don't know if there is a normal, but at least to get me back to where I felt comfortable in my own skin again. So I bout with serious drug addictions for a long time. And then finally got, and I tried to get help on my own, but that never works. I had to get the tough love even to, finally get mentally, how do I say this? So I finally was able to welcome in a recovery. And through the recovery, I always say it's not the self-medicating that's the issue. It's the issues with the person that causes them to self-medicate. So I had to learn all that, and it all makes sense now. But that was tough because anybody can get clean or off get off of self-medicating, drugs or alcohol, whatever. But you still have to take care of the issues that brought you there in the first place. And that was pretty much the best part of my journey, was realizing that I wasn't my life wasn't defined by being an addict. My life was defined by having issues and trauma that I never took care of, which led me to become an addict.
Well said, man. Well said. I just have a quick question before you continue. Did you notice, I guess, was there always a mental health component, or did you notice it through the addiction?
No.
You don't know that you have an issue, I mean, there's definitely no rule book to tell you. Well, I guess the self-medicating is the sign, to tell me that there's a problem. Before I would go out years ago, like almost every night, and to what purpose, and I guess, you're searching for something. There's all sorts of tells along the way, but, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't given any sort of rule book as to what these, what all that meant. I didn't know what it meant. You're crazy. I heard that a million times. You're moody, you're crazy, and I always just thought I was hungover. So now I understand it. Now it makes a lot more sense to me,
You've come from serious self-medicating, addictive behavior to to this point, and your story is incredible, man. And I can't wait to hear what's been going on recently since what you've come from.
Well, it's not like it's overnight. It's again, it's everything's I always tell Lisa, it's hills and valleys, and as we're going up, there's always going to be a dip here, a dip there. It's just a matter of how much we're willing to, allow it to affect our lives. I always say to people for years, I'm just like, what about this says approachable to you? What about this makes you think I want you to come up and talk to me? Another safeguard, because I spent years building walls and foundations just to keep people out. Mostly now I look at it, it's for fear basically of knowing who I really was, or issues that I had, or low self-esteem. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, you never. Part of my mental issue was not knowing my worth, and that comes back to childhood again, because I'm competing as a child, for affections from my father, and my father was competing with me, and it was tough. So when you go back to it, I don't think I spend one day in my life not like putting my hand up and going, my father, because and my dad, don't get me wrong, he was a charming man. Everybody loved him except me. But that's extended into my adult life, and
so that's where you get your charm from, then, huh?
No, God, is that what you call it, charm? That's my safety net.
Well, yeah, I it's funny because now that I'm learning and I'm in my journey, I can see it now and hearing you talk about it. But like, I'm thinking, 10, 15, 20 years ago when, we used to work together, and I'd see this, this force, this energy on stage that owned the stage, and like to hear that energy talking about like low self-worth, or it's mind-boggling, because it was like, here's this like iconic local hero that, like I said, owned the stage. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's that perception that we all have of ourselves, and then that we see in others. So it's interesting to hear.
That's interesting. You bringing that up. Again, we're back to transparency. My stage presence is completely based on being absolutely terrified to go up on stage when we first started. And it just morphed into that monster. I'm not that person, but I am that person. I have to be careful not to drink the Kool-Aid too much, and have, and start believing from others that I might be that person. That is definitely an extension of me, but that comes from, I can still remember, I can see this, the first time I ever went on stage. Like, a lot of bands will go up and perform when they start, but we had members in the band that were from, at that point, well-known other local bands. So there was a crowd, and I'm not going to say a big one, maybe like 30 people or 40 people, that came out to see like our first show. And I was terrified, and so that's what came out of that. Because if they scream, I scream louder. And if you look angry, I'm going to look angrier, so anything I can do to keep that bubble around me. And I always say, I've had people ask about, hey, you should come sing something to us. I don't remember this. I just don't sing on command. But the other thing is that I would not know how to perform by myself. I'm just very fortunate and grateful to have worked with great musicians, excellent musicians that were, and so I could do what I did. And in hindsight, that self-medicated me for a long time. the band until it imploded in the early 2000s. And then immediately you can see from the implosion that I found, another avenue to self-medicate, and then, even Danny, our drummer, he's great. But, he said, man, I never knew what you were singing about. And it's like, it's all in there in the lyrics, albums worth of cries for help. And no one, even my closest friends never really looked at what was being written. I didn't know what was being written, but it's all there. It's all there. Like, 30 years of trauma is all written out with typos and dyslexic spelling, all through our records. Am I getting off subject? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all, man. Not at all. Do you think that being in a band was more helpful or more hurtful for your situation?
Oh, no, that's all relative. Like, any creative outlet is good for anyone, whether it's music or art, crafting. You have to keep your mind busy, but also by creating, your that's another way of showing your worth, as you take something from nothing and make it into something, whether it be a song or a painting. So art, it's, art therapy, but not knowing you were doing art therapy. When we were kids, well, Tim, when I was a young adult and you were a kid, we everything revolved around our bands, even, and I look back on our days working in the music store together, and that's a very defining part of my life. It actually probably kept me sane for a bit too during all this, just because we were surrounded by really good personalities, and that whole microcosm we worked in. I mean, I've never been in a work environment like that since. It happened. What happens once in your life, the high fidelity place where you work, and all those extreme personalities, polarized personalities that we worked with. But self-worth is, again, you look at the weekly or the daily sheets of sales, and we see these local bands, that sell, and then you guys always sold like a half a record more than us, always. Maybe 2 records to our 1, but at least we had that then, which I guess was a justification of what we were doing. I'm not sure that as an artist now that I should be following sales. I should just focus on the work itself, which I think I have to say, I'm trying to get that word I think out of my vocabulary. I'm trying to get the word I believe, so I'm not like teetering, but I believe what we do now should be focused on. Everything that I do at this point has to be focused on or around my mental, stability, even down, I can't, I'm medicated also, I have to take medication to keep myself balanced, which, it makes a world of difference. Although, I'll tell you right now, I just feel normal. But when I don't have this, the signs are just so prevalent that something's not connecting properly, or I haven't worked out something, Father.
There it is again.
There it is.
There it is again. Hey, Dan, I wanted to ask Lisa. So, Lisa, I'm curious about your view of this through your lens and what you've seen over the years, and how this has affected you and how this has affected the dynamic and things.
Well, years ago when we were together 30 years ago, and then we found each other again about 5 or so years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan had reached out to me on my birthday, and I hadn't talked to him in years. We kind of kept in touch through Facebook, but not really. And then I'd seen, that he was having some issues, and I was shocked, because the Dan that I knew, I couldn't imagine him having any kind of like issues with drugs or anything like that. Like, I wouldn't believe it, but I didn't know that guy. So I told him to come down and stay with me, just to get on his feet, to have some support. And he came, and then he never left. But in the beginning,
I didn't have anywhere to go anyway. So
yeah. So he just like basically was like, I'm just going to go stay with Lisa because I know, that she's definitely going to like take me in. But in the beginning, for me, Dan, like not to get all sappy, but I say this is our rock and roll love story. I mean, he was always the love of my life. And I really never thought I'd ever have another chance with him. So when he was like, I'm going to come and stay with you, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. But no expectations. It just kind of really fell into this relationship. But in the beginning, he still struggled. I have 3 children. So obviously I'm not going to do anything to let anything negative or impact them in any way. So in the beginning it was tough, but, when he relapsed, we were together and we were here, and I said, I love you and I will stand by you. And I believe that you can fight this, but if you don't want to, then we can't be together, because I'm not going to jeopardize my kids or my heart or me, because I don't want to see you die from this.
not for lack of trying though.
Yeah. Well, we have a very, very strong.
Well, at least you're honest about that.
Yeah. Well, the last time I don't think he was trying to die. I hope not. But we have a very strong connection. And basically, when this happened, it was incredibly, obviously traumatic. He says that he had something with me and our kids to want to have to better his life and to make it a better thing. And, we love each other tremendously, not to be all sappy. We're very fortunate that we have such a great relationship. So I did stand by him when many, many peers and so-called friends that I'd met here in New York, because I'm not from here, were like, oh my God, leave. You need to leave right now. And I said, I can't leave him. I know that he can get through this. And he just needs support and he needs love, and he needs to have that to know that he can get through it. So I did stand by him. And,
that's a big part of the mental health right there. Not to interrupt you. I was
That's
just
okay.
saying, you have to know your support group, and, you can't be ashamed to ask for help. Pride is a big part of my problem too, because again,
Sure.
you drink the Kool-Aid, and drinking
Sure.
the Kool-Aid, you're perceived as this, in my case, how do I say this without being narcissistic or arrogant, but looked at as like a strength, but that's in the end, it's like, I might be a pillar of strength, but with a cracked foundation, and you have to want it. You have to want to get better.
Right. There's a willingness
people-
that has to be exhibited, right?
Yeah.
and you
yeah,
have to know that, what, I'm ready to do this. And at that stage, I believe that he was ready to do it.
Yeah.
And we've had, we have had, we've been at the bottom, but we stood together and we fought through it. It's the one thing that I can count on now in this day and age. And even back then, I mean, I just wanted him to be alive. So, I had to keep him alive. But once he got through that, and I feel like this last time that he went into rehab,
intensive,
whatever he went into,
care.
I feel like
Okay.
they addressed his mental health this time.
Okay.
And so
Well,
they put him on the medication, and he was a change. He wanted to do better. He wanted, and I from what me knowing him as well as I do, I could see that he had this trauma from his childhood, and I felt like that childhood trauma was part of why he was self-medicating.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's definitely part of it. I used to say it's not like when you go get help, they don't try to offer you mental health, but again, it comes back to,
I don't need that.
Well, right. You have to be willing, and you have to be
Right.
willing to accept that, man. That comes with that when you accept that help, especially for mental health, there's a label that gets attached to you again. So
Yeah.
you have to be
There's
willing
a stigma to it, no doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. There's such a stigma, and doesn't seem to be as bad as it used to be. But I say, if you can take something to make you feel better and to be a better person and to, thrive.
That's what I
why
was
wouldn't
doing
you?
before. It takes something to make myself feel
Yeah,
better.
you're real funny. Real funny.
Right.
But-
Right. With the self-medicating, of course.
Well,
But-
ironically, you talk
Right.
about, I just want to say, ironically, you had mentioned about being that pillar of strength. And I'm sure Will would agree that, reaching out for help, asking for help, and like just be able to stand there and say, look, I need help and I want to get through this, but I can't do it alone. Like that is real strength.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You don't see it though. You don't see it at the moment. And I was going to say that many times, this isn't like I went once to rehab and got better or got the help. I went several times. I looked at it like this was my life. My life was going to be this hustle of self-medicating and not
feeling.
And once in a while, I would pop my head out of my ass, I would say, and you work on something creative, but it was so inconsistent, because that ruled my life. Like being numb was more important to me and not addressing my issues that I see now. I see it now, but being numb was more important than, my family or anything. My whole survival was based on that. It wasn't even about keeping my body healthy. It was about just keeping my head numb and not addressing anything. And the day that when I say relapse, the help that I got from relapsing wasn't because I realized I relapsed. It's because, I've overdosed several times and ended up in the hospital, and I survived that, and it's not once or twice, it's several times. You have to start begin to think like, there's a strength in staying alive when you should be dead also, and now that I'm still, I was still here, how do I say this? It's like, the signs are telling me that you're giving all these chances to get better. How many more chances are you going to get? How many more winks and hints from the universe before you realize like maybe I should probably get some help? And it's tough to,
and I'm such a dominant personality that I was like, I am not going to let him die. I'm not going to have it. Yes, because I had to interject because you like walked into my question.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a great dynamic over here. I'm really just a yes man.
Yeah, I got it. It is amazing though the strength that you've shown, Lisa, and that gives Dan strength, and like and unfortunately many people don't have that, so that's another hindrance in recovery too, not having those connections. So it's a wonderful blessing that you have those.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And, I'm a very strong person being a single mom for a long time, going through my own, not addictions, but, other things. And once I found Dan and I got him back, I was not going to let him go. So I had to get him on a straight path.
This is the part when we were younger is the reason we weren't together. Yes. It's because this woman would constantly tell me that there was nobody else for me in my entire life. And in my narcissistic microcosm, I'd always be like, who is this woman telling me this, And
it's true.
But our story starts like around the release of our first EP in like 91. And our lives have been, back and forth throughout all that. I mean, Lisa's been around for almost every recording we've done. She's been there in some capacity, and it's very, like giving in. Finally, it's not giving in to what she was saying.
Accepting.
It was, she had some words that would constantly come around that started making more sense. But that's also part of you can't do it by yourself. You got to be willing to get help, and you got to be willing to receive the help that you get. And I think that's where I believe that's where I'm most fortunate, is that it fell in my lap. Like I made a decision to mentally, to get healthy, and then all these positive tools fell in my lap, and I just had to, recognize them and, and utilize them and accept them, pretty much. but it's all there. Everything's right there in front of you.
But what an amazing change, though, once he went through all of that. Like, what an amazing change, because Dan is a very, like Tim was saying, that the guy on stage it really is a small part of him. But I always say to like people that know him from us being together, if you saw him on stage, you would be like, who the hell is this guy? I mean, he's an extraordinary showman. I mean, no doubt about it. He puts on an amazing show, but he's, as you see, I'm like type A over here. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. This is what's going on. I'm making the plans. All right, we got to do this. Let's go to, I told him like 76 times today, we have to do the podcast tonight. We're doing it. Okay. Remember, this is the time. But after everything had happened, I mean, if it was possible for him to be better and stronger and more caring and amazing. I mean, I don't know. I am biased, but, we're in such a good place and we're so lucky. And I said to him that if one person could hear this and say, I didn't think I could do it, but here's Dan Neet, who's been through hell and back and he's healthy and happy, that would make all the difference in the world to both of us.
Wow. Nothing like having a cheerleader like that in your corner, man. So that's
every day. It's like this every day. The pom-poms come on as soon as I get up,
dude. She's your own in-house hype track, man.
You know what? She's always been like that with me, but it's not like I don't, I always, there's another person that as strong as she looks, she has her issues too, and self-doubts. And,
of course she does.
That's not the Lisa I know. This is the Lisa I know.
Yeah, it's true. And we do support each other very well that way. I'm very hard on myself for me always trying to empower young people and tell them how great they are and how much they have to offer the world and being positive with my children. And I'm always like, oh my God, I'm this, I'm that. But I think that's just human nature.
It's
honestly.
Deflection. See,
yes,
she's not feeling good about herself. She wants to make somebody else feel good. So that's deflection.
I'm a self-hater too, so I know all about it. I've been on. I
so
have.
Unfortunate because you are extraordinary.
Yeah,
those headphones look fantastic on you too. I was going to say, a lot of people don't know how to accessorize, but you.
That's right, man. That's right. I got Baby Yoda here with me, and
Yeah,
we're
you
chilling
have
out.
to have these. We need those extensions of our personality to let people know that we're human.
That's right, man. We're still alive. Like
Yeah.
that's what I want to celebrate right now with you, though, man. Is the shit that you've been through and the hell that you've like just regurgitated in this angry vomit that you spit out on stage. That is just insane. And that it's just like it's a testament to your strength too, man. Even though your foundation may be cracked, holy fuck, your pillar is strong. So it's like I just want to thank you for just sharing all that, man, because that takes a lot to just dump that out on the fucking floor and let people have it.
Duct tape.
Transparency, man. That's like our motto.
Yeah. And,
to be honest and forthright.
And I'm in a band. It's duct tape. If I have a cracked foundation, I just grab duct tape.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Some gaffing tape and you're all set, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, you said that earlier. You said that, in hopes that one person could hear it. And that's kind of like the basis of how we started and what we would, what we kind of abide by, like a principle, I guess you could say, is, if one person hears a story and can benefit from it, then, that's a win in our book. So, thank you both for being here for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I talked your ear off at the upstate punk rock flea market. Remember?
That's all right. It's good stuff.
Well, I so believe in you guys and I believe in what you're doing. And I think it's an extraordinary thing. And, coming from, not to like talk about myself, but, coming from,
right. That's why you're here.
A marriage of mental abuse for so many years and, putting up with this horrible person, narcissistic human being who's just a terrible person, I walked away, with 3 kids. And everyone was like, I was 41 or 40 or 41. And I was like, and they were like, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? And I was like, there's got to be something better than this. And so I really always try even like at my little job that I work at, this girl came in the other night and she was like, my boyfriend beat me up. And I said, listen, you're so much better than that. And it's hard because you get beat down mentally. You don't think you're better, so what you guys do is just an amazing thing. And, I always try to better people because I think it's really, really important. And, so it's awesome.
It shows a maturity in Tim that I never would have thought would have surfaced ever in his life,
Timmy.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
No, I have to say our friendship has never wavered, even during my times of self-medication. We were we still had some sort of contact here and there. And again, it's like our you look at everything that happens in your life, and even when you go back to the to the golden years of the Albany music scene, the
90s.
Dan, I just wanted to get, I forget his name, the one that I met at the punk rock flea market. I know that he was kind of a variable in your recovery too. So I don't know if you wanted to give him a quick shout out.
Oh, well, you talking about Donnie?
Yeah, the big tall dude.
Yep. Okay. So look at this. Look at this. She's in my head trying to figure out what the name is.
Sorry, I'm always there to help.
It's funny. When I went the last time that I went to a home, which I was there for like 8 or 9 months. I met this guy there, and this big, like brawly, built metalhead that's wall of meat. One of the most sensitive people I've ever met in my life, by the way. And she was like listening to music, and of course, there it is. There it is, the Section 8. He says he's from the other side of the river there, and of course, in Scotticoke or something like that. And he mentioned Section 8, and I said, yeah, I've heard of them. I've heard of that band. But when I told him that I knew you eventually, he obviously didn't believe it, but he knew who we were, but he did not believe that I knew you. So, you validated me that I wasn't making it up.
Nice.
And you came up to the booth that day. He was actually, that's all. I'm just fabricating all that. He was very, very excited to meet you.
He fanboyed. He really did.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, that was a big moment for him. Because when you talk about the influence people have on people, there's an influence when you see this guy living word by word from the lyrics of Section 8, and that's getting him through his day. That's strength.
But Tim, when we were there, Dan said, you got to go over and meet Tim because he's such a stand-up guy and they're doing stuff about mental health. And I was like, oh my God, really? Because Dan does not mince on his words how he feels about people. So really
Timmy has shown a lot of growth in the years that I've known him. I've known Tim since he worked at that same music establishment.
Yeah.
And,
I've never Tim being involved with mental health is something I never would have connected.
I don't think Timmy would have either.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I looked at him as being an advocate for mental health, and I never looked at. I never saw Tim as someone who needed that avenue in his life.
But that's amazing,
though. So it's yeah. When I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm saying
I get it.
I never would have thought that Tim would be a part of that because I wouldn't think that he would need something like that. I don't look at Tim as someone who needs mental health, but now and where I am now in life, I realize that everybody has issues. Everybody has something that needs to be addressed and taken care of to some degree.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mine is a little heavier. Maybe yours is a little bit heavier than someone else, but it's all there. And God, man, it rules our life, man. Childhood trauma in general. You don't realize the impact that something that a teacher said to you in 4th grade.
Yeah, we just went through
how
that.
It carries on to your adult life, when you're developing as a kid. And we, when, before Lisa was more educated on the whole, addiction and self-medicating, she might comment on like, well, how can this person do this when they have a newborn child? And I'm like, because you have to realize that this issue they have, is more important to self-medicate than it is to stay connected to their kid,
And that's painful.
Right. There's really good people underneath that cloak of self-medication. And some people aren't good, but there's a lot of really good people. And it seems the more intelligent and talented a person is, the worse that they're self-medicating. It seems to become at times. They're just beaten down. The more they're aware of, like what I always say this as kids and being an artist, you're told you're special. Your whole life you're growing up and people tell you you're special because you know how to draw a hand or a face or a bird, and then you get into the adult world and you go to art school and you're in a whole room full of specials and you're just not so special anymore,
Right.
It's like we're all a little special, we're all a little special. We all have a superpower and
That's
we all
right.
have a talent. You just gotta find it and nurture it a bit.
I love it.
Absolutely. And I think that having that superpower or talent, whatever you want to call it, I think having that is a part of our wellness as well. Having that creative outlet, something that drives us and that, keeps our mind from ruminating on other things.
Yeah. Speaking of art, because I'm curious, because you kind of led into this, do you have any other art that you pursue? You're obviously an artist also outside of just music. So does one feed the other for either one of you? Lisa, are you an artist also?
No.
She's a wordsmith.
Oh.
I am not an artist. That's why I was like, I'm not an artist. I'm creative,
Okay.
but this guy over here I don't know if you can see above us, there's a painting of me that he did. And
Wow.
it's incredible. I mean, I have to tell you that Dan has a gift of art and he's humble about it, but he's extraordinary. And, that's, with our business, he's puts his own spin on it and it definitely makes a difference, with what we're doing. So
Is all your art generated from pain, Dan?
Oh no, it's all my art generated from pain. Well, that's an interesting question. I'd have to really kind of think about that. I mean, again, it's everything's relative to what's happening in my life, to what I'm working on at that time, or what sparks my interest. But pain is part of my life. It's part. I think it's part of. I believe that it's a part of everyone's life to some degree. You can't be human without having empathy or feeling a little bit of pain. So I guess, yes, it is, but not necessarily. It doesn't rule whatever I'm working on. Maybe sometimes it rules what I'm working on, but not all the time.
Yeah, there's like 9 million pictures of me or paintings of me. So,
Well,
that's a good thing.
You're a very sensitive man.
I'm his muse.
That's
I just want to put that out there.
That's awesome, though. Not too many people have that.
I know. He's very lucky, isn't he?
I am very fortunate and lucky.
Okay, you can cut this out if you'd like.
No, I'm not going to cut this out because it's not very often that it's not very often that we get a couple romantically on the show. Like we've had a couple husbands and wives, but the conversation's been completely different. But for you guys, this is awesome because we get to hear something that we don't normally get to hear, which is a spouse's side of it. And to hear that is awesome. So we appreciate and applaud and thank you for that.
Yeah. Just to say really quick, it works together because what I feed her and what Lisa feeds me is so natural. It's the only reason that, the business has worked so well, we're able to get things done. And it's having that narrative or dialogue with one another where we don't necessarily have to really say something to get our point across. It's known, like, well, he'll do this, or I know Lisa will take care of that, or Lisa feels that, or, so there's no mystery between us because, like we said before, it's like the more transparent we are with each other, the better it's been. However, being transparent, what you just said, I can say some mean things, but I'm not really trying to be mean. I'm just trying to state what I see and not sugarcoat it so much. And the more we became, the more that happens, that also helps in me getting better mentally, because I'm not trying to sugarcoat things or, be passive aggressive about stuff or issues. I just have to say, like, Lisa, is this the mood we're going to be in all day? Should I prepare myself for this? Or are we going to move on from this now and have a normal day?
Yeah, because I'm very forthright on how I feel. So I always tell them if I'm mad, if I'm pissed off, I'm mad about this. But we do always work through everything. And we're very fortunate. I feel we have a lot of experience and wisdom under our belts, being a little bit older and wiser for sure.
It's the experience,
but people definitely always say, you guys are so strong. You have such a great relationship. But, despite all the trauma and all the shit that we've been through in the past 5 years, obviously we love each other tremendously. And any guy that's going to come in and take on my 3 heathens is a stand-up guy, I got to tell you, and loves my children like his own is a huge deal. And, but, I never, ever, and I'm being completely honest when I tell you this, take it for granted that the one thing that I always have is I know that Dan always has my back, that he loves me, that we're a team, and we always have each other. And that's a huge thing. And we're so fortunate. I never take that for granted.
Wow. That was very nice. That was beautiful. I wish more people got to experience that, and I'm sure they do too.
Yeah. Well, it's everything. Like I said, the tools are right in front of us sometimes, like Lisa was in front of me forever, but it took me 20 years to realize that we had a connection. So I don't feel like it's not like other people can't experience this. It's a matter of like letting things happen the way they're supposed to happen, as opposed to fighting. When we fight things, that's when we get sick. When we fight the natural plan for ourselves, things, our lives start spinning out of control. It's just, they say, who is they? But whoever they are, they say you got to stay in the now, and, living in the past is depression. I understand that, and trying to live in the future is your anxiety. And those are very important mantras to live by. Don't live in the past, and don't try to live just for the future, and stay in the day. Our relationship is based on the day, and don't think like it's a perfect relationship. We have our bouts, it's not like arguing bouts, but we have
together.
Yeah,
we work,
right.
We have a business together,
Right,
and
right.
we live together, and we have kids. And not a lot of people can do that. And I think that's certainly valid,
Yeah.
but it works for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But we're still human,
How do you, so is it possible to separate the two?
What's that?
Well, it is with me.
And the business and the relationship?
Oh.
Well, if Dan didn't work 24 hours a day, it definitely would be a possibility.
Yeah. You see, the reality is that I work so hard so I don't have to come home. Nah, I'm just kidding.
You're such an
absence makes. No,
so he doesn't come home and have his dinner put in front of him.
No, I'm very well taken care of. I never really look at it like that. Like, is there a separation? Because that goes back to what I say is like everything's relative. Like my relationship and the band. I don't want to say my band, but our band and our relationship and our. Like it's all relative, if one is working properly, the rest will work properly, and I don't live in a world of fabrications and stories and tales, or trying to keep up some sort of persona that you're not. It's about just being transparent and being yourself.
But the relationship does need to be nurtured, and you have to put all that aside. You do, And we usually go away for a couple of
See,
days.
that was her way of telling me we need a vacation.
Yeah,
You see
we
that?
usually
There you
go away
go.
for a
I
couple
like
of
it. That was a
days.
nice slide in there, Lisa.
You
Yeah.
you better listen, Dan. You better listen.
Or
Yeah.
we like, go out and have a dinner, and I say, let's go out to dinner and let's not talk about the kids, the business, or any of that, and let's just focus on each other. And we used to do, in the summertime, we would go to estate sales, and we would, and for our business, and it was like it was like our date day, from not a date night, and we'd have the best conversations in the car because it would just be the two of us talking about whatever. But I mean, your question, Will, I mean, I do believe it works for us. I don't think it would work for a lot of people, but I do think any relationship, especially one that's been through trauma and, a lot of crazy shit, you have to work on it.
Yeah. Dan, it's interesting. And it's interesting in the two of you and just in your cohesive unit and your beautiful family and stuff. And I commend you for all the work that you do, because I know how hard it is to keep it going and to make it work, let alone having all the other interplay of addictions and stuff play into it.
Dan, through your process of healing, has your relationship with like the bands and your relationship with your other art, have you noticed a difference in that? Since
it didn't take us 8 years to put out a follow-up record for the first time in 20 years. So that's part of it. We found a greater connection. Again, it's realizing your worth and others around you realizing, your value and your input. And for a while there, I was a member of my own band. You know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, sure.
I was a member of my own band, and the healthier I got, they used to do this to me. They used to call me the Major. They put their fingers up there like that, like I was wearing stripes. And sure enough, I feel like I'm a part of it again, as a part of being in it. Like I'm a part of it. That took a long time.
Right. You're not just an observer.
Yeah. Or I'm just playing my part more or
Right.
less.
Okay. Right. You're kind of, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you suffer from, have you suffered from imposter syndrome at time? Because you talk about trauma a lot. And I know trauma can cause that fracturedness, because that's what happens to us when we become traumatized.
You said imposter?
Imposter syndrome. Like
imposter.
Do you feel like almost fraudulent at times when you separate yourself from the stage persona of Dan Neet and the real, the Dan Neet that I don't want to say is damaged, because you're not damaged, but
you can say it. But how about being the damaged person, going up on stage and trying to be Dan Neet? That's happened more often than not. I've said this before too. You can't dumb down your audience. You can't, if you don't believe in what you're doing, that translates to whoever, to the crowd that follows you or sees you or watches you perform. And I definitely know it's like almost like a rebirth, I guess, of like going back up on stage and being part of that again, as opposed to just playing in it or performing in it, and that was also part of the recovery, was finding myself within that, and also making sure that, as much as relative as it all is, that there's boundaries between what we do as performers and how I am in my real life, or not my real life, but the other side of me that
the home guy, the family guy, the guy that's
sure,
that's running a business from the house, all of it, like that whole part of you that
right. Yeah.
Did you find that a lot of idle time on the road led to decomp more so than when you were home, or did it not matter where you were?
The healthiest place for me to be is on the road, because the focus is performing. So You
Okay.
know, I would never go out. It would be rare that we would take a night and get nutty as a band or whatever. You know, that it was, you know, you play the show, you perform the show, you pack it up, you go to the next show. It's about getting rest and eating properly. That was, you know, finding drugs and alcohol to self-medicate came way later in my life. In my 20s, I never did any. I mean, it was alien to me. I couldn't even name like how many different liquors there were, or, you know, you hear about addicts. You know, I used to buy weed just so my friends could smoke it, because I didn't even do that back then, you know. But when the traumas surfacing in my life all came at a very transitional time for me and, you know, we had, you know, I had a breakup, which in hindsight was ridiculous now to me as to how it all transpired. But my father passed away. You know, we got signed to a big record deal. You know, there was a lot of pressure to, you know, to produce something for Albany, even, like, you know, to put the town on the map. Or, you know, we watched our band climb the Billboard charts in the top 10, you know, heavy metal listings or rock listings, just to have it shut down the week afterwards. Like, there was a lot going on, and, you know, it's just enough for someone to snap. And I'm trying to remember the reason I was saying all this. I had a point to make, and I think I got off of it.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all
That's
good.
my spaceman Dan, right?
Yeah.
Tim knows that. Spaceman
Nice.
Dan, you know. I always say my intentions are really good, but my follow through is lacking still a little bit.
But, you know, Will, this new record that's about to come out, I mean, it is the best thing that the Clay People has ever done.
That's
and
awesome.
I was right next to him, to Dan, during the pandemic while he was writing these lyrics, you know, and putting this together and being healthy and having a reason to get up every day with me and the kids and his life. I truly feel it made a difference, you know. And it's, and I'm not just saying it because he's my partner, you know. I'm saying it because I love music. I've known the Clay People since the very beginning, and this record is phenomenal. I mean, it's just incredible. And I do think that, you know, you have to give credit that he's healthy and he's in a good place, and it makes such a huge difference.
Just don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Dan, when's the new record supposed to drop?
I believe it's going to be out at the end of May or beginning of June.
Thank you both, and for doing this, for taking the time out. I think it's important to have these conversations. I think it's important for the person that is kind of telling their story, but it's also important for a listener to hear that and gain some strength from
Absolutely.
that story. So thank you both.
It's huge. No, and you know what? It was really, really, we discussed this at length, and we're both huge advocates of trying to help people and empower them, because we know how lucky we are, you know. And like Dan had said, you know, when we first got together and we would talk about addiction and all this, I didn't know anything about it, you know, because I'd never been in that world. Now, I pretty much feel at this point I can say that I was a functioning alcoholic, but I didn't know it back then. So he always says that I saved him, but he saved me as well. And knowing
That's
that
the dog. That's
the
our
dog just like walked by there, knowing that people don't understand, you don't just become addicted to heroin or meth or whatever because you just feel like it.
You're not born an addict,
you know. And
well,
it's frustrating because if you do your homework and you understand and have just care just a little bit, it makes such a huge difference. So it was a big deal for us to do this, and maybe hope that maybe, like I said, if just one person hears it, that's amazing.
There is such a lack of people, you know, appropriating or getting help for their mental health, that you have a a fentanyl issue in America where these people that just need mental health are they're dying. They're dying. I mean, it's being overshadowed by war and pandemic and all that, but it's happening, and
It's tragic.
It's been happening.
It's absolutely tragic. This comes back to not getting help when they need help or knowing how to ask for help. So like a show like yours and a podcast like yours, it's really important to participate and be a part of it, because we're all rubbing elbows, all of us, with mental health issues, and it doesn't take much to with those elbows, like to put the hand out.
That's right.
Try to pick someone up a little bit,
That's right, man. That's right. That's
why
why
I need it. And I need it too. I need it all the time. I constantly need to be picked up all the time. And I get that, between like Lisa and, even the band, people around me, because I will isolate myself to absolute degree.
I second that.
I'm like, I like being my own best friend sometimes, but that's not healthy either. Isolation.
No,
I'm very good at it.
Isolation is not healthy at all, man. Not healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for being a part of this, and thank you so much for being willing to speak up for those who don't have a voice or don't feel like they can find their voice, because it's all muddied up by all the things, and it's incredible, man. It's incredible, and we thank you so much. Timmy, what about the first question, man?
Sorry about our dog.
No, dude, it's all good. We love the dog.
Yeah. My therapy dog.
There you go.
Yes.
He really was. He really was his therapy dog. He really was.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Like
not like officially, but this dog came into our lives at a time when Dan really needed him.
Are we done? Are we recording still?
Yeah. We're just getting ready for the last three questions.
Do you have favorite or least favorite word?
Ooh, favorite or least favorite word?
Word.
Word.
I don't know if it's a word, but I don't like people who are problem starters. I like problem solvers. So I would say a phrase would be mine. I like the problem solver is what I'm a big component for,
Gotcha. That works.
Is there,
hey, you didn't get that before.
Is there?
Do you have a favorite word? What is one of your favorites?
Oh, well, that was my least favorite and my favorite.
Problem starter is your least favorite.
Problem starter, I'm not a fan of. But
we always talk about how the
universe
always comes for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, me too. That's my name for the great power of the world or whatever, because I don't use the G word, so unity is mine.
Exactly.
So
yeah. I believe that.
The second question is a question that I kind of change up every time we do it, just because sometimes things will come up during the conversation. So my question to you is, what piece of advice can you give to our listeners who are in a relationship with somebody with a severe, persistent mental illness or an addiction? Just like one piece of advice that you could give them for positive to keep things going and to be the pillar that they know they can be and be together.
Well, that's kind of a heavy question, because if you're in a relationship where one or two people are self-medicating, that's not a relationship, that's an existence, so that it's not, you have to address the problem. When you address the problem, it's very rare statistically that relationship is a working relationship, so if it's that you're in a relationship with someone who's addicted and it's codependency, and it's not a relationship. So again, it's you got to get help. You got to work out those issues, whatever they are. And it's a sad truth to say that, because you think you're like madly in love with somebody or the perfect person for you. But if you're in a relationship and that person is self-medicating, well, that's not a relationship. So I don't know if that's what you want to hear, but that's how I see it.
All right.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that
you know,
was Lisa. How do you feel about that? Because
I feel that
It's the same thing
it,
with
it's a
us.
yeah,
You know?
it's a tough situation, and you have to be so incredibly strong. And when you love somebody, you're clouded. You know, um, again, you know, I cannot say enough that you have to be really strong to be able to go through something like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're with somebody that is self-medicating and you love them, you make up excuses, you know, like it's going to be this and it's going to be, yeah. And you cannot enable somebody. And, you know, I can honestly tell you that, you know, Dan and I being together again after all those years and having him back, and the fact that I could lose him was so horribly traumatic for me. But I had decided at that point that I would rather lose him and let him live. You know, I wanted him to live. If I had to leave him and whatever, you know, but I wasn't going to jeopardize my family. And you have to think about, as a spouse or a, you know, partner or whatever, you have to think about yourself. You know, you have to think about yourself. And if this person is not willing to get that help, then it sucks. But you know, you can't put yourself in that situation. It's a hard
truth. It's such a hard truth. But you know, if it's meant to be, it will. But it's not gonna. There's no substance to it as long as half of that relationship is not there mentally. It's not a relationship, you know. And I can even say that with ours. You know, when I fell back,
I can attest to that myself, my friend.
That wasn't a relationship.
Yeah, he was a totally different person when he was using. He was not that guy that I fell in love with, and he was just it was like a separate personality, you know.
Yeah.
These dogs are very codependent on us.
Yeah,
of course they are, man. They love you.
There's more than one. That's why they're trying to get back in there. They want to explain.
There you go. That was perfect, though. That was a great answer. Thank you so much for that, Timmy. Hit him with the Big Daddy.
So if there was something that you could do or that you would like to see done to mental health as a whole without any kind of restraints, what would it be?
If there was something that can be done with mental health.
Yeah, or addiction and recovery. Like if there was something that you would like to see and done in the community, in the system, or whatever, and there was no restraints on resources at all, like what would you like to see be done for the recovery community or the?
Well, okay. So that's the simple and obvious answer. It's got to be made available for everybody.
Okay.
No matter what their dynamic is in the community, you know, financially, racially. You know, it has to be available for everyone. The one thing I could say about it, addiction, is that it holds no prejudice. You know, it equally attacks everybody. You know, professionals down to the ones that aren't financially within a financially good situation. You know, so that's the obvious answer. It's got to be made available for everyone. And it's there now, but there's so many loopholes that you have to jump through in order to get help. You know, you can go to CDPC and tell them, you can walk up to the front door at CDPC and say, I'm going to kill myself. But if you're not admitted by someone else, they don't take you in. And we lost a good friend years ago from that. He's a singer for a band called Fat Mook. And
yeah, I was friends with Adam.
Yeah, great Adam, great person. He knew he was sick and went to get help. And that dogs.
Yeah, that unfortunately
they sent him away and he hung himself that night. It has to be made available. There is something to be said for those that even joke about suicide. You know, I remember I used to joke about, I'm trying to start a habit. You know, and it's like, be careful what you wish for, and because there was
chill.
You know, and once I had it had complete control of me. You know, there's no way of getting out of it, so it's got to be made readily available for anyone that needs it. Even if you're not quite sure they need it, there's got to be a system set up where it can be filtered through, where they're at least brought in and diagnosed or looked over or have some sort of therapy session, so someone can make a decision, but it has to be available.
And, another thing that I don't think they realize is that children are growing up and they're developing. And, my kids go to school here in Albany, and you see that these issues that these kids are having at home are not being addressed by any kind of mental health. They can do whatever they can, and the school is great. But that if these kids don't get the help that they need, it's all going to end up in them turning to drugs or a life of crime. And I'm a huge advocate of therapy. A huge advocate. And, the kids are ashamed. They're like, oh my God, I don't want anybody to know. No, not my children, because I'm a weirdo and I'm a huge advocate of therapy. But, I always say to everyone, therapy is the best thing ever. Like, everybody should get therapy. Everybody should have somebody outside of their circle to talk to.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Right? It makes such a huge difference. And these kids, my kids are in middle school, and I have a friend that's a teacher, and he tells me, he's got these kids, and he's like, they're not going to go anywhere. No matter how much it breaks my heart and what I can do as a teacher, their mental health is being affected right now. And I feel like that is not touched upon at all.
Wow. Great answers. Great answers. Thank you both so much for being here tonight, man.
No problem. So do you have
awesome.
The address to send a check?
It's in the mail.
It's in the mail.
Okay. And I want you to know that I read everything properly off the sheet you sent me, so it should.
All right.
No,
All right.
I'm just kidding.
Real good. Real good.
No, it was
thank you.
really a pleasure and an honor, and we really appreciate you letting us be on your.
I was having
podcast.
kind of a crummy day today, and I'm overtired, and I thought of my usual MO is to find 12 reasons not to do something, when obviously I should do it. And
usually that's when you should do it, is when you start coming up with reasons not to do it. I found, for me personally, that's when you need to do it.
Yeah, I'm great at that. I'm great at coming up with that 12 excuses not to do something.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it's
yeah.
true.
Well, thank you both again.
Yeah,
thank you both again. So that was Dan Neet and his exploding head.
Yeah, right.
Exploding head. You couldn't wait. You couldn't wait to use these. Even the intro.
I know.
There's
you know me, buddy.
We have other records out, right? You can listen to more than one record. Okay.
I do. Hey, Colossus, man, come on.
Colossus, right?
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
both.
Dan. Thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Until next week.
Be well.
Be safe.
Be
above. Thank you for giving us a listen. New episodes every Wednesday. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can share, rate, review, and even subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Other ways to support the show: follow us on social media, share the content, share our episodes. You can also buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/abovegroundpod. For further concerns, show ideas, or just to say hi, you can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for listening and supporting mental health. Keep the conversation going and stay above.